I want to introduce Brian from Conversion Sciences. Hey there, business owners, directors, and marketeers. I am really stoked to talk with Brian today because he has been in the conversion space for a long time and he has been seeing a lot of tools, I'm assuming, coming and going. He actually calls himself the conversion scientist, and you can see that on the lab that he is on the lab coat that he is wearing even today, which I'm happy he's doing. And the company he founded basically in 2007, Conversion Sciences. It was one of the first agencies that really started to focus exclusively on website optimization, and that's, I think, what makes it really interesting to talk with Brian today. And through all of this time, he has seen what works on the web through thousands of website tests. And despite that, he's also sharing his knowledge as he's being the author of the Amazon marketing bestseller, Your Customer Creation Equation. Right, but without further ado, I want to introduce Brian. Thanks, Brian, for being part in the show today.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm glad you invited me.
Very cool. Yeah. So tell us about Conversion Sciences. Tell us more about it. What is it all about?
Yeah. So we bring a team of people that does everything necessary to optimize your website. We parachute in and provide you with a complete conversion optimization solution. The top line goal, of course, is to get more visitors to convert into subscribers, to customers, to leads, whatever your business may be doing. Our process has worked on the widest variety of industries, from B2B e-commerce, B2C e-commerce, B2B and B2C lead generation. So our process is really solid. Our people know what they're doing, and you need to be spending your time working on your business while someone else does the conversion optimization work, because it's a lot of work, honestly, but it pays it for itself in terms of increased sales and revenue.
Really good. How would you say, or how would you describe the people that would benefit the most from your services? You were describing that you've been applying your methodology to a lot of different fields, but is there particular types of businesses where you feel that they benefit especially from your service?
Yes, well, so every website deserves to be optimized. There are different levels of optimization. For our full team approach, where we're bringing a designer, a developer, a data analyst, and then the team that can set up and QA tests, any business where small changes in the conversion rate will result in a nice win. So, I mean, a nice increase in conversion overall. So let me refine that a little bit. We work mostly with businesses in what I call the mid-market. Small, medium-sized businesses, small, medium-sized enterprise. We are a best fit with a business that is really focused on the bottom line. So if you work with a really big business, we work with a number of enterprise clients, they're a little detached from the bottom line. So we love to really work with those businesses. We have businesses as small as $2 million in revenue a year, up to, I don't know what the number is, 150 million, 250 million in revenue, where we're dealing with someone who either reports directly to the CEO, or we're often dealing with the business owner themselves, someone responsible for the P&L, because they're the ones really motivated to do the work and put the resources in place to increase sales and increase profits.
Makes a lot of sense. So what do you think can a company expect when they're working with Conversion Sciences? Like, what is the KPIs, probably around conversion rate, but what can they expect starting to work with your team?
Yeah. So they can expect, and the reason that we get hired is because they want to see an increase over the. Typically, we engage in 6 months initially. We call this our conversion catalyst process that gets the business ready and into a conversion optimization process. And they're looking for an increase in leads, an increase in sales, an increase in e-commerce sales. That's what they hire us for. Mm-hmm. What happens is that they get a lot of confidence in their analytics. and in their tools. Number one, they know that someone's actually using the data that's coming out of analytics. Someone's actually using the data that's coming out of a tool like Crazy Egg that does heat map reporting, or Inspectlet that does session recordings. Sometimes these tools get purchased, they sit around and canceled with no gain. We're the guys that are going to spend that time doing that. So the first thing that happens is they get a lot of very interesting insights. After we've spent about 30 to 40 days on the data, we have this magical meeting where we show you things about your customers that you didn't know. We show you how they're interacting with the pages of your funnel. We show you where the blocks are. There'll be a number of, these moments where you're like, oh yeah, well, if we weren't so close to it, we never would have designed the page that way. And that's okay because we're coming in with fresh eyes. And then we go through the process of testing through all the ideas we have to find out which ones we're right about and which ones we're wrong about. And the things you learn about your customers are pretty amazing. But ultimately, the people continue to work with us because of that, because number one, they realize they can be asking more questions about their website and about their business and using data to answer those questions. They get a little bit addicted, I think. And there's a team that they can say, hey, I like to tell the story. We had a client that came to us and said, we're thinking about doing billboards on the side of the 101 here in San Francisco. Can you tell us which of these designs is most likely to be seen and recalled best? And the answer is yes, we can collect that data. So we become a kind of a utility for answers to questions using data, and that's the reason they keep working with us. Of course, we have to keep increasing that revenue, but I think that hopefully that gives you a flavor of the experience of working with us.
Definitely. So it's not limited to websites only, from what I'm hearing from your last example there.
Most of our work is on websites. It includes strategies like remarketing, emails, and things like that. We don't do bid management. We don't do paid search. We typically inform designs. We don't do ads, for instance, social media ads or display ads. We really are focused on the post-click. But what you learn on those post-click landing experiences can easily be translated back into your ad strategy. So we work great with these other agencies.
Really interesting. I'm curious about this meeting that you just mentioned. You're coming back after a while and you're presenting your work. What would be the roles, or what type of people would be surprised most by what you're bringing back into the team? Because I think, sometimes, at least that's the experiences we've had in those interviews, is that, CEOs or, other leading positions might often be very detached from those types of metrics. Like, what's your experience sharing these types of insights across the team?
Well, with the businesses, these mid-market businesses, small, medium-sized business, small, medium-sized enterprise, we are often dealing with the P&L manager or the owner of the business, so they get to learn things about their business. And I think what makes this particular meeting really good is that we don't summarize things as much as you might expect. So we're actually showing people heat map reports if it shows us something. We'll pull some user testing videos where it's common for us to run some user tests on those and watch people interact with the site to generate some more ideas. So we'll play snippets of those to demonstrate where people are struggling, where they're not seeing the next step clearly. And this is all very eye-opening. Typically, it's an exciting meeting to do like a marketing study where you come back and say, these are your segments and these are their careabouts and their motivations and here are the personas. But that stuff tends to get shoved into a drawer. We take that research and we start itemizing hypotheses that then get put on a list, prioritized and scheduled for A/B testing or researched. Sometimes we can come to a conclusion simply by doing user intelligence research on those ideas. But I think we don't underestimate our audience and their ability to look at this data and understand it as well. We all have it built in. So I think that's why our meeting is particularly magical.
Very interesting. I would have loved to be part of one of those meetings, maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would have somebody to be expecting to pay, or what would be the way of thinking about budgeting when trying to work with your team?
Yeah. So every business is a little bit different. We really do focus on A/B testing as the ultimate. We call it the Supreme Court of data. that really gives us the most reliable data on whether a change is going to improve things or not. And that includes A/B testing tools and automation, machine learning tools that help us do what we call multivariate tests faster, because the machine learns how to prune certain versions of the page. I won't talk too much about that, but so the question that you have is, have I got 500 to 1,000 transactions a month? If so, you've got a volume of visitors that allows for A/B testing. If you're closer to 500, then we're looking for site-wide type approaches. The next question is, do I have an average order value that is high enough? So if you're selling something that has a $5, a $10, or a $20 value, like if you're selling books, it's going to take longer for you to get a return on your investment than if you're selling stair parts with an average order value of $350, or if you're selling generating leads for addiction treatment centers, where when someone becomes a patient, it's a $20, $30, $40,000 purchase ultimately, or working with a university where having a student enroll and accept is $50,000, $100,000, $200,000. The payback of a small increase in conversion rate for businesses like that is pretty tremendous. So we actually have a calculator. I'll be happy to share the link with you that will let you go in and enter how much traffic you're getting, how many transactions you're getting, and what the average order value is, and can show you what a 10% increase in conversion rate would deliver, or maybe a 2% would deliver in terms of yearly top line revenue. And that's a great way to budget. In general, we're looking for businesses that will see an additional $150,000 a year in revenue with a 10% increase in their conversion rate or their revenue per visit. The economics work out really well for hiring a team like ours, if that's the situation.
And just remind me, how long would you be working? I think you mentioned that at the beginning. Is that the process? Do teams have to go in with the expectation of a long process? Is that something you do in a relatively quick period of time? What's the average time that would be working with you?
So the minimum we'll do is a conversion catalyst process, which is 6 months. You will see, not really on our website, but on a lot of websites, people are like, oh, we did this test and we found 42% increase. And we did this test, we found a 92% increase. Conversion optimization is really built on a series of smaller increases. So the reality is that across all of our clients, we generally see a 15% to 25% increase in bottom line business growth through the website in that 6-month period. So I would invite you to set your expectations to that. Sometimes we get lucky and we have a test where we are able to double the performance. Those are few and far between, and if somebody is claiming that they're getting a lot of those, they're probably not doing a good job on setting up their tests. So I don't want to knock the competition, because we need as many websites being converted and optimized as possible. So I've been educating the market since 2007. I welcome them all, but that's the expectation that we set with our clients: 6 months, 15 to 25% increase.
Very good. You mentioned educating the market there. Like, what's your perception, being so long in the market already? We've been seeing in the interviews sometimes conversion rate gets a little bit too little love and a little bit too little attention in a lot of marketing teams. What's your perspective on the awareness about conversion rates, the willingness to optimize, the willingness to act? Like, what's your experience?
Yeah. So the statistic that goes back to 2013, 2014, it's getting a little bit long in the tooth, but I don't think it's changed that much, is that businesses will spend $93 on average to bring people to the website. So advertising, SEO, content, things like that. And they'll spend $1 on optimization. And the fallacy there is that if you're spending money on advertising, your competitors can come in and drive up the cost of those ads. Google can change their algorithm and reduce the effect of your SEO work and the effectiveness of your content. Any conversion rate stuff you do, you own it. It's on your site. It's reflecting the psychology of your visitors. So it's an investment that no one can take away from you. But $93 to $1, that's a little bit disappointing. Now, having said that, I think that we are branching over from the early adopters. So for most of the time that we've been in business, we've had what we call woke champions, people that are like, oh my gosh, why am I spending so much money on this traffic when half of it is not converting well? I can either stop spending on that, which is terrifying, or I can get it to convert at a higher rate. Who could help me with that? So it's these early adopters that become the champions within their businesses that then drive it forward. But I think we're moving to the main market. So we're having more conversations with people where they're saying, okay, we're going to fit you guys into the budget. Or they're coming to us and saying, I've got a budget for conversion optimization. Now I'm trying to figure out the best way to spend that. And so that indicates that we're more into the main market, and we should be seeing faster growth. I think any business right now that is in this space is going to be ready for 3 or 4 or 5 years of growth. I think we're counter-cyclical. We're the sort of thing people invest in when the economy gets bad. And any business that is not adding conversion optimization to their budget is in severe danger from smaller competitors that are just going to outperform them. So that's my take on the market.
Makes a lot of sense. Have you seen sort of like pockets in the market, or let's say different verticals that have been, more aware? I think naturally, the travel industry, or I think also subscription services are, picking up. Have you seen, different verticals where you think they're becoming more aware and moving quicker than others towards conversion rate optimization?
I probably don't. We get such a wide variety of folks coming in that are interested in conversion optimization. All of our traffic is inbound, so we don't do any outreach. The pockets that we have traditionally worked well in have been those high line item lead generation. So I mentioned universities, private universities, addiction treatment centers, things like people who are selling procedures, so plastic surgery procedures, bariatric surgery procedures, things like that. And then on the e-commerce side, lots of interest it seems like I think the bigger the e-commerce site is, the larger their catalog, the more interested they are in getting the site optimized. And that makes sense because it's a little bit trickier to optimize a large catalog site. Each product line will potentially have its own conversion rate. So they really need a team to come in and do that. At any time we have slots available for 20 clients. Right now we're full up, but we're always having these conversations with folks. And 48% of our clients have been with us more than 2 years. We have clients that have been with us 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. So these are clients that are, again, they're in this mid-market space, but they are really interested in continuing to have an advantage in their marketplace. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Very interesting. I wanted to talk a little bit about the training that you're offering there as well, because we've seen you're also offering training offers yourself. Could you tell us a little bit about this? What can people do? What's the format? What can people take away? Yeah.
So my goal for the last 2 years has been just to get more marketers using data. So I think for a lot of marketers, well, first of all, we've been able to award lab coats to the strangest collection of customers and partners you could imagine. These are Russian literature majors, people that don't have a college degree, but that are smart businessmen that got the value of using data in their businesses and move forward. So I think anyone can do this. But for a lot of marketers, I think there is a lack of confidence. There's like, oh, data. I need to be a data scientist, and I need to be really good at R and doing regressions and stuff like that. The truth is that that's not the case. So my training is all about getting line marketers and the people that are managing them to do more experiments. They're all creative. They're all curious. How do we put a little discipline in place so that when you have that crazy idea on Friday and you think about it all weekend and how awesome it would be, you can picture the ads and the way the copy could really target the segments that you're after and fundamentally change the success of these campaigns. And then you get it on Monday and you're like, I couldn't really sell that. It's a little bit too much of a risk. I think you should go and collect some data to see if it is a risk, or to see if it's as brilliant as it seemed to you over the weekend. So these are the benefits of data to me. Managing helicopter executives, managing agencies that like to deliver pretty things, because honestly, that's what we've trained them to do. Being more creative in your ideas, stealing ideas from your competitors, but only the ones that work. These are the things that get shoved aside when marketers are just trying to get the campaigns out and not get tripped up by trying anything too crazy. I think the crazy is why you got into this, right?
That's very true, actually. I'm curious, somebody like yourself who has been optimizing conversion rates for a big range of clients. How do you think about even conversion sciences themselves? Like, what's your perspective on the online strategy, the online growth? Like, where do you think sort of what do conversion rate optimization agencies have to do in order to grow online?
Well, so I think so I'll tell you what I think works for us. Broadly, there's a consulting function, which is where you go in and you do research and you make a bunch of recommendations and you say, good luck. And those reports get everybody really excited. A couple of them will be pulled out and used, but for the most part, that will live on somebody's drive and collect digital dust. Then there is the services portion of it. So this is more what we see from full service and creative and digital agencies, where the client comes and says, we're doing this campaign, we need this, or we're trying to address this segment and we need campaigns to do that. And they're doing, it's not that it's not strategic work, but it is skill service based, deliverable based, I guess you would call that. I think that anybody who is investing in conversion optimization and wants to build a business, and this has worked well for us, is be in a position where you're doing the consulting, which means you're defining the projects, but then you're also delivering the services that make those things sing. And I think that's really put us in a great situation because we don't have to go, like I said, we deal with 20 clients at any time. We get 20 slots. And those slots stay full year after year because we're always researching, finding new things, and then we're also doing the work to figure out which of those ideas really is the best and to measure how much they're going to improve things. So that would be my recommendation. I started with consulting. I was giving great ideas and walking away, partnered with Joel Harvey. He brought the operations, really doubled down on A/B testing, and so we now have a really powerful approach. So that's what I would recommend.
Really cool. You mentioned the slots being full. So I'm curious if even conversion rate optimization for your own sort of agency page plays a role. Is that something that you're actively looking at to increase the conversion there?
We've tried. So we are actually in the process of revamping our website. So if you were to go and look at conversionsciences.com right now, you would see a site that has a lot of words and some placeholder images. Of course, that was supposed to flip, within a few weeks to our branded. We've got the branding research done, but we've been spending all of our time with clients. So it's the cobbler's shoes problem. We're following our process, a process that takes 6 months for our clients. For us, ends up taking 12, 18 months as it looks like. So, but if you'd like to watch, we are following a process. So check in on the website every month or two and see if you can detect the changes that we're making as we start adding landing pages, we refine the design, and we work more of our persona-driven story into the copy.
Very interesting. We'll keep an eye on that. So somebody who is sort of also maybe taking on some conversion rate optimization work, maybe within the team, marketer maybe listening, what do you think is key metrics that they should be looking at? There's conversion rate optimization, but there's a bunch of other metrics, time on page, bounce rates. Like what is maybe within your methodology, even bundles or clusters of metrics that you would be recommending to look at?
So really the only metrics we care about are more leads, more sales, revenue per visit, the quality of the leads, So I would focus on that. And actually, if you are in a lead generation situation, most of the clients come to us don't have a good idea of the value of a lead, especially if you're in a long sales cycle, business to business sales situation, because marketing sends a whole bunch of leads over to sales, and 6 months later, those leads are going to be closing, over the 6 to 12-month sales cycle. It's just the nature of it. But it even is a problem if you've got a 30 or 60-day close cycle, sales cycle. So being able to understand, well, I sent those leads over and they generated this much revenue looking back over the last 90 days, 60 days, a year, whatever's appropriate, very important. And as you're optimizing, you can send crap leads in. So you've got to have a monthly way of measuring how valuable that is. So that's on lead generation. That's the first thing I do is get a simple model. We don't want accurate. We just want a model that represents changes. If sales conversion rates go down, we want to know, because that indicates that we might be sending bad leads. If they go up, we want to know. So it doesn't have to be accurate, it just has to be consistent. On the e-commerce side, people talk about time on site, number of pages viewed per visit. The problem is that somebody who's lost and angry looks very much like somebody who's engaged in doing a lot of research. They're hitting a lot of pages, they're scrolling, and so you need to do a correlation if you're going to be using some of what we call, these are proxies. So we optimize for revenue per visit, we optimize for average order value, we optimize for number of transactions. Correlate these engagement metrics with the others. Go into analytics and pull how many, the average number of pages per visit, if that's what you're looking at, and compare it to the conversion rate or the revenue per visit. And if they correlate, then yeah, you can optimize, because you've got proof that increasing the number of pages per visit is increasing your bottom line metrics. But half the time we see there's a correlation, half the time we see it's the opposite. So if you increase the time they spend on page, if you increase the number of pages they visit, you're actually lowering your conversion rate. You need to understand what's right for your business. So anytime you use these proxy settings, make sure you do the correlation.
That makes total sense. Maybe one last question on this before we also close, slowly coming to an end. Basically, I'm curious, what challenges did you face in order to actually, execute and, go all the way to the end to then finally improve the conversion rate, working, with different set of clients? Maybe you can pick one or two, scenarios that come back to your mind. Like, what is a challenge to go from insight to, actually implementation and increasing the conversion rate?
Well, the biggest challenges are those in which you have a series of inconclusive tests early on. So we used to do a process that was 4 months. And every now and then you're going to go 3 or 4 months with inconclusive test after inconclusive test. Now keep in mind that we have a lot of fix-its that we report on the front end, and there are a number of things that we just say change this because we've done other testing other than A/B testing to come to that conclusion. But for those things that we want to take to an A/B test after test after test is inconclusive, people start to get a little bit nervous, and so that's when it becomes tough, because you want to start doing things like cutting corners. So let's change a lot of things on this page because we're not getting a lot of movement here. Let's change a lot of things and do that sort of a test, which can work, but you don't really learn anything about what really is improving things, which of your ideas improve things, which of your ideas didn't. So you've kind of got to resist that, especially when you're a guy in a lab coat. The point of all this science is to get our biases out of the way. And so I think that's the toughest part when you have these periods where you're not making progress. Sometimes you find you're at a local maxima and you do have to jump. You have to make a major change. Those are the most harrowing times. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It really does. So I want to jump into the last question, really, and maybe learn a little bit about your personal experience, building up a career, building up a company, even within the conversion rate optimization space for many years now. what would you think was most helpful for you to grow the business in a space that is, continuously, you know, gaining awareness? What was the most helpful thing for you to grow the business?
I think the most helpful thing for me, so looking at it as an entrepreneur, um, finding a good complementary partner. There's a book which I have not read called Rocket Fuel, but the summary kind of drove it home for me. And when I speak to entrepreneurs, I talk a lot about finding the other. But you need someone who's complementary. So I tend to be visionary, long term. I started this in 2007. It was 2010 before we really had, the time that I put in educating the market was paying off. And now we have a very healthy inbound marketing program. And so I mentioned Joel Harvey, my partner. He came in, he brought that operational side, that short-term look at profitability, put a process in place that's repeatable, manage the assets and the training of people to implement that process. And, that was really very, very helpful. The fact that we have always been, we have a great value proposition and we find the money to pay for ourselves, but we've always kept ourselves a little bit expensive. So we're kind of in the middle of the market, but that gives us the freedom to do whatever we need to do, like especially during those hard times that I mentioned, like we need to double down on the research that we're doing or try some different ideas. We can do whatever we need to do. And I think that was really important. We've always been a thought leader, an educator. Of the clients that have been with us more than 3 years, 60% of them saw us speak somewhere before they became clients.
Yep.
The lead time on that is 12 to 36 months. So they see us speak, they'll reach out to us in 12 to 36 months. Yep. So it takes a little bit of a long view, but hopefully as we enter this mature market, those sorts of things will change and there'll be a faster turnaround because it'll be a part of the conversation every time a CMO goes out and says, we need to define what our budget's going to be this year.
I see. And those speaking engagements are probably what you referred to before with like that you're having a very solid inbound strategy coming in. Is that what you're describing as inbound strategy? You're going out having...
By inbound strategy, it's the speaking engagements, it's reaching audiences like we're doing right now. And it is always putting out content. So I put out 2 podcasts and 2 blog posts every month.
Yep.
I strongly recommend that everybody go and check out Intended Consequences podcast at intendedpodcast.com. And so we're always teaching and we give away our best stuff. We give away our best ideas. We don't give away what's working for specific clients. But I think people coming and learning from us, they begin to trust us, which is really what this is all about. And then they make better decisions about who to hire. And we always want to be in that part of the market where the best decision is to hire conversion sciences.
Really good. So, Brian, I really want to thank you for taking the time and sharing from your experience in the conversion rate optimization world. Maybe one last thing. If you would go out today, this would be your first day studying conversion sciences. What would be one advice that you would give yourself?
I would come work for us for 3 or 4 years. That would be the best way. We've had employees. We've been doing this long enough. So we've got one of our employees is heading conversion at Yeti. One of our employees was heading conversion at Big Commerce. So they're going out and seeding these other companies. And if you're in one of those companies, don't even think about trying to poach my employees.
Very good. Thanks a lot, Brian, for taking the time, and thanks a lot for sharing all those insights.